Godzilla and Kong seem to be aiming for epicness on an unprecedented scale. Since the launch of the Monsterverse 11 years ago, each new film has had to raise the stakes and create an ever more powerful threat. And so far, the franchise has successfully managed this, judging by the box office. However, the new teaser, subtitled Supernova, unequivocally hints at a titan from space. In the next few minutes, we will explore whether Space Godzilla will be the new villain, and whether one of the main monsters will indeed die in the upcoming film. Following the commercial success of New Empire, a direct sequel to Godzilla and Kong was immediately announced. However, the franchise will change its regular director, who helmed both of the released crossovers. Instead of Adam Wingard, Grant Sputore will take the helm, for whom Supernova is the biggest project of his career. Before this, he directed the Australian sci-fi film I Am Mother, which was in 2018. So, at the very least, we can expect a fresh perspective on the clash of the most famous titans. Additionally, the lead actors have also changed. Caitlin Dever, Alicia Debnam Carey, and Sam Neill have joined the cast. It is also known that Dan Stevens will return to the role of Trapper, thus ensuring a sort of passing of the baton. But the most important thing is the teaser, which marked the start of production, the release date, and the title of the third crossover. There were previous reports that the next film was supposed to start filming in April 2025, which is now officially confirmed, albeit slightly later. Considering the production schedule, principal photography will conclude by the end of the year, leaving all of 2026 for work on visual effects. Given the time frame, Supernova should not have any scheduling problems and will be released in March 2027 without delays. The teaser itself begins in the Monarch offices and slowly moves towards a computer screen, showing an emergency alert. Although the video does not reveal much information about the film, we see a call from Sedona, Arizona. Interestingly, it was there, in the second Godzilla film, that Scylla appeared after King Ghidorah awakened titans from all over the world. It is not yet clear exactly how this location might be connected to Supernova, which became the film's subtitle, but it was surely chosen for a reason. Generally, it must be said that the titles of the Godzilla and Kong crossovers have always partially revealed the plot. The first one focused on the confrontation between the two main titans, with them teaming up in the finale. The second one stopped emphasizing them being against each other and was titled New Empire. Essentially, Skull King was striving for it, wanting to cause a new ice age. Even the second Godzilla film, subtitled King of the Monsters, essentially referred to Godzilla's dominance as an alpha titan. Therefore, the title of the third crossover is already generating numerous theories about what it might mean in terms of plot. For clarity, the title Supernova itself is not a reference to anything from the cinematic past of the two titans. Neither of them has ever fought another monster named Supernova, and neither of them possesses any power associated with this name. However, since it refers to a star, it is quite easy to guess that it will involve something very powerful and clearly alluding to space. A supernova, by definition, means a bright and powerful explosion of a star with several stages of varying magnitude. They occur towards the end of a celestial body's life when it essentially exhausts its nuclear fuel and collapses in on itself. Moreover, supernovae are usually the cause of black holes, as the star's explosion under its own gravity leads to the formation of a hole after ejecting most of its mass. Therefore, using such a subtitle for the film practically guarantees that the next installment will feature a space element. To what extent the creators will present space to us is still unclear, and frankly, it is doubtful anyone will be sent there. It is more likely that the film will include aliens arriving on Earth, which has already happened in the franchise's history. King Ghidorah was an extraterrestrial organism that sought to subjugate Earth. Therefore, the most obvious theory is that the film will introduce another monster of cosmic origin. And here, it is not hard to put two and two together to understand that it most likely refers to Space Godzilla, who was an enhanced doppelganger of the Titan we know. However, this is not just a clone of Godzilla. Space Godzilla has a huge number of enhancements that make him much stronger. The biggest additions are the giant crystals protruding from his shoulders, which act as conduits and dispersal points for energy attacks. Moreover, they make him a physically very imposing figure. He has powerful teeth and a 5-pointed facial crest that shoots energy beams. Space Godzilla is not only capable of overwhelming Godzilla with his attacks in a one-on-one battle, but he also possesses a unique set of telekinetic abilities. Even the most ardent Godzilla fans admit that the film in which Space Godzilla appeared introduced a villain who was too powerful. In his origin, Space Godzilla emerged when Godzilla's cells ended up in space due to Mothra or Biollante. There, they fell into a black hole, were absorbed, and eventually gave rise to the powerful clone. And since Space Godzilla originates from a black hole, the title Supernova literally points to him, leaving practically no other options. At the moment, the Monsterverse has not yet presented a way for Godzilla's cells to reach space. The writers will likely have to craft a new origin story for the clone, something the franchise has even hinted at. A fleeting line in the Monarch series, spoken in the 4th episode, might shed light on the new Titan's origin. Dr. Barnes, working for Monarch, calls the organization's headquarters when her outdated equipment picks up an unusual energy signature. It detected radiation in Alaska that supposedly only exists in supermassive black holes in space. The episode implies that the portals to the hollow Earth actually contain the same energy as black holes, which allows for instant travel through them. The portals warp space and time and apparently are powered by the energy of black holes. This means that black holes in essence already exist within the franchise. Furthermore, the series mentioned that only about 5% of the hollow Earth has been mapped, so there are many places where a Titan born or corrupted by their energy could be located. Another interesting fact is hidden in the official Monsterverse art book, which was released alongside New Empire. It featured a painted mural that was ultimately not used anywhere in the film. It was part of the origin story of Kong, Godzilla, and the Great Titan War. The image showed the ancestors of the main monsters directing their wrath at a creature in the sky that looks like a Godzilla with wings. This creature is colored blue, while all the other Titans are red, indicating an alien origin. Moreover, it emerges from a spiral of stars, which could be a symbol of a hole in space or a hollow Earth portal. Although this concept art remained unused, it might be a hint that there was actually a hidden villain in the ancient Titan War, and so powerful in fact that Godzilla's ancestors and the great apes were forced to unite to stop it. Therefore, Supernova has every chance of creating a galactic threat in the 3rd part, forcing the Titans to unite their powers once again. And not just Godzilla and Kong, but also Mothra, Shimo, and someone else too. Another point I would like to mention is related to the death of one of the characters. A supernova is, after all, considered the death of a star, so the subtitle might be alluding to the final film for Godzilla or Kong. This seems possible because, firstly, Space Godzilla is one of the strongest monsters in this universe. And secondly, the new installment is supposed to conclude the crossover trilogy. If we dig even deeper, we can find that the classic film Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla also featured Godzilla's son, who later replaced his parent. Currently, the Monsterverse has introduced us to Kong's kin and made him their leader, but Godzilla is still an ancient and the last of his kind Titan. Therefore, there is a high probability that Supernova will also introduce us to a new Godzilla for the future, and the current king of the monsters will die a hero's death. Of course, besides Space Godzilla, there are other classic cosmic villains from the cinematic legacy. For example, Orga, the dangerous form of the Millennium aliens. This creature debuted in the 1999 film, possessed healing abilities and telepathic control, and looked like a biomass absorbing genetic material from its surroundings. Or for instance, the alien cyborg Gigan, who is similar to Mechagodzilla in many abilities but looks more futuristic and has a giant buzzsaw on his chest. However, Space Godzilla seems the most likely villain, considering everything mentioned above. The franchise does not even need to go all out into space to explain his origin. The already established rules for how portals work will suffice for this. Moreover, before Supernova, the 2nd season of Monarch will be released, which will continue to reveal new facets of the Hollow Earth and will most likely lead us directly to the crossover. Work on it has already been completed, and the visual effects stage is now in full swing. The premiere date has not yet been set, but the 2nd season will, in any case, be released before 2027. As you can see, the Monsterverse is doing wonderfully. A new global threat is coming, the cast and production team are being refreshed, and the series is already aiming for another season. Therefore, whatever the creators come up with, we are, as always, in for a spectacle of colossal proportions. In the meantime, we invite you to speculate in the comments about who else might be the villain in the next film, and what the chances are that this upcoming movie will be Godzilla's last. That is all for today, folks. See you in new videos very soon.